Hi you guys, Dr. Chad and I are back for our Q&A Wednesdays. We took a little holiday hiatus. Happy holidays and hope everyone started off their new year great. Today we are going to talk about a common symptom that I'm sure all of you are hearing a lot about, and that is anxiety. And I want to ask Dr. Chad, first off, what do you think about when you think about anxiety, or when a patient comes to you and says that they're having anxiety-like symptoms?
Yeah, anxiety is a mental, emotional, and also a neuropsychiatric condition, and it has a pretty broad spectrum of symptoms, from more mild symptoms where a person might just feel their heart racing, or they might feel like a little bit of shortness of breath, all the way to full-on panics, and they literally feel like they're going to die. So that's an extreme like panic attack. Usually those people end up going to the ER because they feel like they're having a heart attack. So it runs a pretty broad spectrum, and also there's lots of underlying different causes for anxiety. One thing that interested me about looking into anxiety is I started changing some things in my diet and lifestyle, and I noticed that a symptom that I used to get if I missed lunchtime at work, if I just had to kind of work through lunch, I would get heart racing, and that would make me feel a little anxious. And after I made these changes, those symptoms went completely away. So I knew that it had something to do with maybe hormones that are involved in low blood sugar, that kind of thing. We can maybe get back to that in just a sec. But yeah, so it's a pretty broad spectrum of symptoms that are associated with anxiety.
So a question to you too is, what common pharmaceuticals are out there to treat anxiety, and what are some of the symptoms associated with that, or the side effects?
Yeah, probably the most common one is Xanax. Xanax is a medication that's oftentimes prescribed with people who have symptoms of anxiety, and the common symptoms are things like fatigue and feeling kind of low energy, and some people might get kind of dizzy or lightheadedness with the medication. That's at the kind of common end. The more severe end is sometimes people are at such a level of anxiety that they start to double up and triple up with other, let's say, anxiety suppressors. And so you've heard about these things in the news, like celebrities who, are taking a prescription medication and they don't wake up the next day, because oftentimes they are taking something like Xanax along with a benzodiazepine, or along with an opiate, and maybe switching that back with some alcohol, and you get multiple central nervous system suppressors. If all these medications, including alcohol, are suppressing the central nervous system, then that could slow down a person's breathing to the point where they just kind of trail off in the middle of the night and never wake back up. So that's at the pretty severe end, but that's what can happen. You get too many of these really strong anti-anxiety medications together, and there can be pretty significant side effects.
So you touched a little bit on the fact that you've had anxiety symptoms when your blood sugar drops, and what have you done to help that from a natural standpoint?
Yeah, so one of the things that I knew was happening with me, and I think a lot of patients that I've dealt with, is that blood sugar fluctuations. When we're on the carbohydrate roller coaster, every time our blood sugar drops, that's actually a really major stressor. And we know that stress, first of all, is just one of the triggers to anxiety. And low blood sugar is one of them. There's kind of three main stressors. There's mental emotional stressors. That could be like, oh, I'm stressed out from work or finance or whatever. And then there's physical stressors, which could be like an unresolved injury, or chronic pain, or postural neck issues, or headaches, or something like that. And then there's biochemical stressors, which is things like blood sugar dropping. So all three of these stressors can trigger anxiety in some people. So for me, my blood sugar was dropping, and so what my kind of hormonal neurotransmitter system was doing was going, uh-oh, we're in like an energy crisis. So let's release a whole bunch of excitatory hormones and excitatory neurotransmitters. And these excitatory neurotransmitters are there to try to support the blood sugar, but they also are going to rev up your heart rate, they're going to rev up your respiratory rate, and they're kind of going to make you feel like you're a little bit anxious. And so that's, you know, that's kind of a common scenario. There's other reasons why a person can have anxiety. And I should also say right here that there's certainly cases where medications are absolutely indicated, and you wouldn't want to come off of any of these medications without consulting your prescribing doctor. But we just want to talk about some alternatives just to kind of get the conversation going about what else is out there, what are some other things to consider when a person's suffering from anxiety.
And so one of the things you did was implement exogenous ketones into your diet. And so what do you think the future is for that? And maybe helping people deal with some of these blood regulating or blood sugar regulating issues that can cause these anxiety-like symptoms.
Yeah, part of what I did with diet lifestyle is I started to eat a lower carbohydrate, higher fat, you know, fairly moderate protein diet. And that was making me feel a little bit better. But then when I stumbled upon exogenous ketones, I started taking those kind of mid-morning, and that would put me in a state of ketosis through lunchtime. And I noticed by accidentally missing a couple lunches during this period of time that I did not have any symptom whatsoever of the heart racing, of these kind of excitatory neurotransmitters and hormones kicking into my system. So then I went, wow, what the heck just happened? And so when I have a question like that, I usually turn to the literature and see if I can find some studies on this. So I came across this study that was published in a journal called Frontiers of Molecular Neuroscience. And this was a study that was published at the end of 2016. And this is what they looked at. They looked at ketosis, including exogenous ketones, and anxiety. And this was actually a rodent model. It was a model on rats, and they looked at it super sophisticated way, very comprehensive way of evaluating. They put the rats in basically a stressful situation to induce an anxiety response, and then they gave them. Anyhow, so in this study, they evaluated anxiety levels in rats. So they put them in a stressful situation, and then they gave a certain group of rats exogenous ketones, and they saw a really significant reduction in anxiety behavior. So after reading the study, I went, wow, so that's super interesting. This could be something that we could really apply to humans. And unfortunately, those studies haven't been done yet, but I think we're going to find a very similar thing, because here's what they theorized in the study that's probably happening is there's improvement of serotonin, just how, you know, certain medications are used as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Think of like Prozac, helps to boost serotonin. Also what they theorized is that it improves the GABA to glutamate ratio. And this is a little bit more sciencey than maybe what you want to know, but GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, is it's our main inhibitory neurotransmitter. It calms down the central nervous system, and the opposite of that is a neurotransmitter called glutamate. And so what they're theorizing, and they're going to test it, is that there's probably improvement when the body goes into ketosis. There's probably improvement. So as the GABA goes up and the glutamate goes down, that causes a very calming kind of result on the central nervous system, and anxiety goes away. So we know that by taking these exogenous ketones, it puts the body into a state of ketosis, and then while the body's in a state of ketosis, it causes increase in this GABA glutamate ratio, and it calms down the central nervous system. So I thought that was just so cool, and something that I think a lot of people can benefit from.
Yeah, so I think we started another great conversation today, and our goal is to look into the studies. Well, he's going to look into the studies, but we're going to come to you every Wednesday and do a Q&A. So if any of you have any questions and want to know some answers to some kind of hot topics or things that you're hearing in the health world or whatever, we would love to come to you and do a Q&A about that. And otherwise, have a great Wednesday, and we'll be back next Wednesday with a new topic.